What's happening, everybody? Friday, February 27th, 2026. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you so much for tuning into Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. War with Iran may be coming, or strikes on Iran, or some sort of altercation with Iran may be coming, as President Trump is apparently not very happy with the way the talks are going. Certainly not a boring Friday by any means on that front. Also, Bill Clinton testifying in front of the House Oversight Committee today on Epstein. And the more he talks, the more any of these people talk, it seems the more innocent President Trump is. Which Democrats are having a seriously hard time dealing with. Also, hey, look at that. More proof of voter fraud. More proof of voter fraud, this time in the state of Alabama. Pretty wild stuff. Democrats will continue to tell you that these sorts of things are not happening, yet they are. A Fairfax, Virginia woman was randomly stabbed to death by a career criminal on a bus. I'm sure that didn't even make it into your news cycle today, because why would it? Why would it? These things happen so unbelievably frequently. Mortgage rates continue to hit an all-time low, or a new low, I should say, under 6% for the first time in quite some time. So maybe, just maybe, someone will be able to purchase a home sometime prior to them dying. Before we get to all of that, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Pop the live chat up. AC Knight, what's happening, buddy? Everybody, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you go follow AC Knight. Huge help to me, by the way. Say hello to everybody in the Rumble chat. Sandra, how are you? TPH, what's going on? Palumbo, what's happening? Bad Moon, how are you? Cat Pill, how we doing? Shout out to everybody watching all over the place. Make sure you guys are sharing the video out. Before we get started, before we get rocking, before we get rolling today, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. We got a bunch of new stuff over there on the website you guys are going to want to check out. We got a lot of stuff for the ladies, as we always do on this show. Got these new American Sweetheart shirts. You guys are going to want to check them out. Not to mention these new American Honey t-shirts. A very jacked man in AI with a very awesome t-shirt on. Check that out today. Let's see, what else we got here? And when new stuff gets added every single day, the American Warrior t-shirt, and then, of course, all of the classics. All the good stuff, the 250 edition, the F Around and Find Out wall plaque. You guys are going to want to check all those out today, of course. My personal favorite, the I voted for this t-shirt. You guys are going to want to check that out today. LoudMajorityUSA.com. That's LoudMajorityUSA.com. That's the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on over here. You guys can use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. That's promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. So we had some breaking news this morning. Pretty terrifying stuff. The U.S. authorizes non-government personnel to leave the country of Israel. That's absolutely horrifying. As attacks in Iran and around the Middle East continue to be in flux right now. As tensions heat up in the Middle East, this from the Post-Millennial, with U.S. warships and fighters massing in the region, the U.S. State Department has authorized the departure of non-essential government personnel. In an email from U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee that went out early Friday morning, saying that if staff want to leave, they should do so today. On February 27, 2026, the State Department authorizes the departure of non-emergency U.S. personnel and family members of the U.S. of government personnel from Mission Israel due to safety risks. In response to the security incidents and without advance notice, the U.S. Embassy may further restrict or prohibit U.S. government employees and their family from traveling to certain parts of Israel, including Old City of Jerusalem and the West Bank. Persons may wish to consider leaving Israel while commercial flights are still available. That's terrifying. The State Department went further, reconsider travel to, quote, Israel due to a terrorism and civil unrest, and the West Bank due to terrorism and civil unrest. They said, do not travel to Gaza, northern Israel within 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles of the Lebanese and Syrian border due to continued military presence and activity on the Egyptian border within 1.5 miles, except at the Taba crossing, saying, quote, terrorist groups, lone actor terrorists, and other violent extremists continue plotting possible attacks on Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Terrorists and violent extremists may attack with little or no warning. Of course, much of this comes in response as apparently talks with Iran have completely stalled. President Trump commented on this on his way down to Texas today.
Is there a risk that strike could turn into a long, drawn-out conflict in the Middle East?
I guess you could say there's always a risk. You know, when there's war, there's a risk in anything, both good and bad. We've had tremendous luck with myself, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi. Everything's worked out, and then we do the Midnight Hammer and so many others. Everything's worked out, and we want to keep it that way. But we're going to see. Look, it'd be wonderful if they'd negotiate really in good conscience, good faith and conscience. But they are not getting there. So far, Peter, they're not getting there.
That's horrifying. That's horrifying. I don't think President Trump wants war. It seems like many people, particularly in the neocon establishment, are clamoring for it. I think they should do a lot less talking and a bit more sitting down. The email from Mike Huckabee went on to say, focus on getting a seat to any place from which you can and then continue to travel to D.C. But the first priority will be getting expeditiously out of the country. Huckabee added that the decision to allow departures were made out of an abundance of caution, saying there's no need to panic. But for those desire to leave, it's important you make plans to depart sooner rather than later. So, nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Do not panic. Like, what the hell's that movie with Kevin Bacon where you just, everyone, please don't panic. But please get the hell out of here as quickly as possible. Friday's email follows unsuccessful indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran in Geneva, Switzerland, Thursday over Tehran's nuclear program, though some additional discussions were set to take place next week in Vienna. Iran is likely to launch ballistic missile attacks against Israel in retaliation for any U.S. strike. This past June, 33 Israelis were killed and more than 3,300 injured in a missile and drone attacks on the 12-day war with Iran. As Thursday's decision concluded, Iranian state TV reported that Tehran was determined to continue enriching uranium, rejecting proposals to transfer it abroad, and sought the immediate lifting of international sanctions, rejecting 3 demands from U.S. Representatives Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The theocratic regime has also refused to broaden discussions to cover Iran's stockpile of ballistic missiles and support for terror groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. While the White House had no official comment on the Geneva talks, Vice President J.D. Vance told the Washington Post there's no chance that the U.S. strike on Iran would result in a years-long Middle Eastern war. J.D., I'm a huge fan, but there is no way you could know that. There's no possible way you can know that. Multiple reports indicate that President Trump is mulling different possibilities for an Iran operation, including targeted strikes. Multiple strikes on military and nuclear. Multiple strikes on military and nuclear strikes, as well as the so-called decapitation attacks meant to take out the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and other high-ranking officials to lay the groundwork for regime change. I mean, look, do I want to see the Iranian regime fall? Yeah, but I don't want to be the ones doing it. I really don't need to be stuck in another protracted war over and over and over and over again. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Some people in our party, in our establishment, just continue to clamor for war, and I don't know why. It's like they cheated on Ukraine, and now they're moving on to Iran. The war machine keeps on churning no matter what. No matter what. It's a real shame because it doesn't have to, and I wish that it wouldn't. Before we move on to the next topic, because we got to talk about Epstein. Sorry, TPH. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. Well, I know why I'm yawning. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm absolutely shot, but that is what it is. Guys, we'll be back in 1 second. Before we do, here's Jeremy.
Hey, everybody. If you're not familiar with, then let me introduce to you Armor Colostrum. Now, I didn't know what colostrum was up until a few years ago. I'd never even really heard of it. And then my wife turned me on to Armor Colostrum. And what colostrum does is it helps regrow your hair. Not going to lie, that's the reason that I started looking into it. But then I started noticing some other things that I could benefit from. I used to get acid reflux very badly. I used to bloat very badly. It felt like I was 10 or 15 pounds heavier than I was until I made Armor Colostrum a part of my everyday schedule. And now things have changed so very much. Let me introduce to you what Armor Colostrum actually does and what it looks like. In a study measuring immune cell response to toxin, Armor Colostrum performed 32% stronger and faster than other colostrum companies. 400 plus bionutrients activated in your life, in your body, to help regrow hair, strengthen your gut health, regrow your nails, toenails, and fingernails healthy, get rid of fungus, stop bloating, and more. And now you can get yours right now for up to $18 off each and every purchase at tryarmor.com. Promo code LFATV. Click the apply button once you've entered the code and watch your discount fall off. That is tryarmor.com/LFATV. Order now.
Guys, head on over to tryarmor.com and use promo code LFATV. That's tryarmor.com and use promo code LFATV. So, Epstein. It's all we're going to talk about for the next, 100 years or so, because it doesn't seem like anything's ever going to happen with it. Yesterday, as Hillary Clinton sat down for a closed-door testimony with the House Oversight Committee, I cannot stop yawning. What the hell is that? Sorry about that, everybody. Yesterday, Hillary Clinton sat down for a closed-door testimony with House Oversight. Today, Bill Clinton sat down. Yesterday, it seems as though Hillary decided to throw Bill under the bus several times, saying, you need to ask my husband those questions, which should come off pretty awkward when they get back together again. However, there was some news coming out of that committee today. Apparently, Bill Clinton said that neither one of them, Jeffrey Epstein or Donald Trump, ever said that Donald Trump had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. As it seems like the more and more evidence comes out, the more and more Trump is exonerated, and the harder and harder the Democrats try to claim otherwise.
Making a statement here.
And President Clinton said, that's for you to decide. And the president went on to say that the president, Trump, has never said anything to me to make me think he was involved, and he meant with Epstein. So I know there's a lot of curiosity about President Trump. I thought that was an interesting thing that President Clinton said. So I'll let the Democrats have the podium and they can answer your questions. But we'll come back at the conclusion, the majority will, and we'll answer all your questions. Thank you.
Of course, Democrats then later came out and tried to say, well, I think we need President Trump to be deposed. No sitting president has ever been deposed in that sort of way, so I can't imagine why they would do that in the first place. But, alas, Democrats are going to continue to try this. They're going to continue to try this nonsense over and over again, like President Trump is ever going to sit down and be deposed. No president has ever been deposed in this sort of way for some sort of a crime that didn't happen while he was president. Obviously, presidents have been deposed in impeachment hearings. That's where we got the famous Bill Clinton line, what does it mean? Or what is, or whatever the hell he said in that moment. We're monitoring the hearings right now to see all of what comes out from that. if anything more comes out. Anna Paulina Luna came out last night and basically told everybody, look, the victims themselves, the people that they are trying to seek justice for, have cleared President Trump of all of the accusations.
We've asked the victims specifically on whether or not President Trump had hurt them, and he was exonerated. He released the files, and they don't want to report that. What they want to try to do is take this and have us say on record whether or not we will subpoena the president to come testify, in which I respond, the president is not considered a person of interest in this investigation. He's been nothing but cooperative, at least with us and members of the task force. And I think that his record will reflect that he has released all files. It was also interesting to note that we inquired on how many files did President Biden release. The answer is 0.
You're right. Well, keep up the heat.
The answer is 0. Over and over and over again. That's how much Democrats released before this. So when they come out and they try to claim that they actually care, no, it's just politically expedient. But some people don't really seem to care about truth or fact or reasoning. Here were the dithering idiots on The View just making things up. I don't know how much more money ABC has to pay out to Donald Trump in lawsuits before somebody tells these women to just stop talking.
I want to know where those pages are.
What was taken out?
Well, we don't know what was taken out, but what we know is that Representative Garcia read about 50 pages left out. He did read an account of the president sexually assaulting that 13-year-old.
This president.
Yes.
Well, explain what this is, the words.
Well, apparently in this document, and I want to be very careful here because these are allegations, and President Trump has consistently, they're unverified allegations, and President Trump has consistently denied all the allegations and any wrong.
So they're unverified allegations. So let's make sure we say it on national TV, considering we just admitted that they're unverified allegations.
But there was a presentation made by the FBI, and the witness stated that Jeffrey Epstein introduced her to Trump, who subsequently forced her head down and punched her in the head in response to something that she did.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like Trump at all. Now he's violent on top of everything else. Donald Trump is a guy who grew up in Queens, and there has never been any allegation of him being violent at all, whatsoever. Believe me, I know violent people from Queens. Now all of a sudden he's beating people up? But they'll believe anything. Of course, The View doesn't tell you that the reason why Donald Trump has been so coy on this is because he is the whistleblower in the FBI documents that told the feds to go after Jeffrey Epstein, that told the feds to go after Ghislaine Maxwell, that threw Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. They don't tell you that part. Luckily, Scott Jennings is here.
Regarding Trump, I mean, if they end up asking him questions, I assume he's going to end up testifying somewhat about the whistleblower status that he has in these files. I mean, the only real true thing that we know is that he called up the police in Florida and said, you need to look at this. You need to look at this guy. You need to look at Ghislaine Maxwell. He was telling them, he was warning them about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. And although you're being quite clear that the president has never been accused of anything, any wrongdoing, you have Democrat after Democrat after Democrat, even Hillary Clinton, just a little while ago, all too happy to go on television and cast aspersions on his character using this idea that, well, his name appears in the files. They're trying to mislead the American people. It's the Steele dossier all over again. That's all this is.
No,
Let's just throw out some things and hope it sticks, even though there's no evidence whatsoever.
Hold on. The Steele dossier is completely unrelated to what we're talking about.
It is, because it was a bunch of uncorroborated crap, and you're trying to stick it to the guy.
That's not what I'm doing.
The Democrats.
The thing, if Donald Trump is in fact the whistleblower, and it is shown to be the whistleblower exclusively in these files, why did he fight so hard to prevent Congress from passing this law in the first place?
He signed the law, and they released millions of
after he brought members of Congress to the situation to try to convince them not to pass it.
I mean, he did raise a legitimate issue, which is when you start dumping unredacted and uncorroborated documents out into the public domain, people who have nothing to do with it could be getting hurt, and that's already happened. We had a Democrat member of Congress, Ro Khanna, go down to the House floor and dox 4 guys who had nothing to do with it. So he did raise a legitimate issue, but the reality is he signed the law. They've released millions of documents. They may release more based on what they can find, but the only thing we know that's true is that Trump called the police and said, yeah, you need to look into Jeffrey Epstein, and these Democrats trying to cast aspersions on him is ridiculous.
As a act, I'm not saying he is guilty, but to act guilty, those two things don't square, Scott. That doesn't make any sense.
He's not acting guilty, but he knew what Democrats were going to do. They were going to take the files, and they're going to do what we're seeing today. Oh, his name is in here thousands of times. You do the math. So you have no evidence he's done anything wrong, but he knew he was going to be smeared. He knew he was going to be smeared unfairly.
If he knew this was going to be the outcome, then why not come out at the beginning and say, I have nothing to hide. We'll make the files public.
He has never denied.
Here's the totality.
He's never denied any of this.
Here's the totality of my. He called it a hoax. He's never denied it.
The hoax is what the Democrats are doing.
The bottom line reality is that he.
And of course, CNN running out of talented people to confront Scott Jennings on their crap. Donald Trump knew exactly what Democrats were going to do, and when he calls it a hoax, he's talking about the Democratic response to it. That's what Donald Trump does. Whenever he says something is a hoax, he's talking about the response. And that's exactly what members of the House Oversight Committee have been doing all day. Well, why does his name appear so many times? So they expect President Trump to take responsibility for the fact that 2 other people are having a conversation about him. We played you that clip from The View the other day where they were like, oh, well, suddenly maybe we shouldn't have dumped 5 million pages worth of documents all over the place without having them properly vetted because some people's names may be implicated even though they didn't do anything wrong. Like Whoopi Goldberg, because naturally, as I said, if you're going to have an orgy down on some island somewhere, you're probably not going to invite the lady from the Sister Act. Just going to roll the dice on that one. You're probably not going to invite Kathy Griffin, who also was named. But they want to drag this out as long as humanly possible. Now, of course, The View is very upset about sex trafficking. They're very upset, and they should be very upset about sex trafficking. Of course, you know, they tend to ignore when it happens anywhere else all over the country. Like, let's say, you know, some place that the rich liberals on The View would never go to, a place like Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha, Nebraska, where it turns out like 6 illegal immigrants were running a sex trafficking operation to this day.
The Douglas County Attorney's Office says the investigation is still ongoing, but we do know 6 men are in jail. He says a minor was brought here to Omaha from another city. Omaha police arrested these 5 men on Tuesday. They include Sumit Chowdhury, Vishal Goswami, Kavan Kumar Patel, Michael Martinez Gonzalez, and Alfredo Zambrano Hurtado. A 6th man, Eduardo Perdermo, faces 5 other charges.
We're in the process of charging several of them with trafficking charges, sexual assault charges. It appears to be, the allegations is a 15-year-old girl who was brought here from another city and trafficked by somebody from this other city. So we'll have more details as we go along here.
We asked Klein if this sex trafficking case is connected to a Venezuelan gang known as Tren de Aragua. Do we know, I guess, if the TDA gang is involved in all that at all with these cases?
That's something I'm very interested in, and there's a possibility.
Klein says Omaha isn't immune to crimes like sex trafficking.
I think sometimes people don't believe that, hey, sex trafficking can't happen in Omaha, Nebraska. You know, we're not in a gigantic city, we're not in places that you would expect it, but it certainly can, and this is an example of how it can happen.
Now, all 6 suspects will have their first court appearance tomorrow.
Weird. The View didn't want to bring that up. I wonder why. They seem to care so much about sex trafficking these days, but, you know, not when it happens to, you know, American citizens by illegal immigrants. No. That slipped their radar. Instead, they would just make up a story, tell you it's unconfirmed, then repeat the story over and over and over. You know, I don't expect Joy Behar to know this because she's dumb, but Sunny Hostin's a lawyer. She should know better, which is why she emphatically, over the top, made the claim that, oh, this has been unverified and President Trump has denied it, but just because it's unverified and just because the person has denied it doesn't mean I can't repeat it live on television. She knows better. She knows better. Luckily, we're beginning to see illegal immigration continue to go further and further down under this president. This way, we can't have illegal immigrants trafficking America. Look, there are enough Americans doing this crap. We don't need to import people from all over the world who are doing it. We got an article here from Newsmax. When it comes to net migration, last year, the United States saw more people moving out than moving in, according to new statistics. New estimates show that net international migration, the difference between those entering and those leaving the country, has plunged sharply, with projections indicating that the United States could experience net migration for the first time in more than half a century. That's the goal, everybody. We need less people coming in. America is full. We need to stop importing people. I don't care if they're H-1B visas. I don't care if they're brilliant. Unless they can hit 30 home runs a season, I don't need them here. And if they do hit 30 home runs a season, they need to move to Queens. The U.S. recorded an estimated net loss of roughly 150,000 people in 2025, according to the Wall Street Journal. Immigration totals fell dramatically from the peak of nearly 6 years ago, of nearly 6 million in 2023 to between 2.6 and 2.7 million last year. So even with the massive number of deportations, there were still 2.5 million people that came in. At the same time, deportations and voluntary departures surged, with Homeland Security reporting 675,000 deportations and nearly 2.2 million self-deportations. Census Bureau estimates show a net international migration dropped from 2.7 in 2024 to 1.3 million in 2025. And this projection to fall to roughly 321,000 in 2026 if the trend continues. Officials noted the decline was driven by both reduced migration and increased immigration. While the Trump administration has touted the numbers as proof of its promise to secure the border and restore order to the immigration system, another trend is drawing attention. More American citizens are leaving the country in record numbers. The Journal reported that Americans are moving overseas to Europe, Latin America, and parts of Asia, citing lower health care costs, affordable housing, and remote work flexibility. That's amazing. That's spectacular. You know why? Because, look, I don't have data to prove it. I'm going to roll the dice. I could be wrong. But I'm going to assume that most of the people fleeing America are not voting Republican. So, not only are we losing immigrants in the census data by deportations and self-deportations, but we're also losing registered Democratic voters. Later, Portugal has seen its American population surge more than 500% since COVID-19, while Ireland welcomed in 10,000 Americans just last year. Unfortunately for us, one of those 10,000 made their way back. That's right. Rosie O'Donnell, who fled America, decided to come back. That's unfortunate. Data from more than a dozen countries show at least 180,000 Americans relocated abroad in 2025 alone, with total estimates of Americans leaving overseas raising from 4 million to 9 million. Later. Adios. I'm sorry for the Portuguese that you just took an influx of 500,000 ugly people, but I guess that'll balance out. Not 500,000, a 500% increase. I guess if you get a 500% increase of ugly American liberals, that will counterbalance Cristiano Ronaldo. And you guys will go back to being a relatively attractive country instead of aggressively attractive like you were before. Some polls suggest as many as 1 in 5 Americans would consider moving abroad if given the opportunity. Later. I promise you, not only do we not want people who shouldn't be here, I don't really want people who don't want to be here. Feel free to go. If you're an American and you think that fleeing America is going to be the answer to all your problems, we should give you a free plane ticket to wherever it is you want to go. Perhaps South Korea. Not South Korea. North Korea. Why did I say South Korea? That was that. Send them there. Go to China. Go to Cuba. Go to your socialist utopia hellhole, and then let us know how that goes. We showed you yesterday on the show. Was it yesterday on the show? Where do I have the clip here? I'll play it again. Where some lady decided that she was going to flee America for the grand utopia that is Canada, and then ended up getting up there and found out that Canada sucks just as bad. Oh, here it is. Here it is. You know what? We'll enjoy this all together.
I'm a scholar of the far right who has fled the United States to Canada, and I need help. The situation in Canada is absolutely dire. For Americans who don't know, the housing crisis here is worse than in the United States. I lived in LA for 6 years, and I have not faced rent as bad as here. When my partner, our cat, and our dog fled the United States, we headed north with the goal of being close to where our families are located, which is on the West Coast. So we are now in British Columbia. More specifically, we are in the Sea to Sky Highway in the Greater Vancouver area. We are attempting to find housing in the western side of this region. My partner and I are here on a visitor visa, which is a 6 months possible stay for Americans. But while you're here on a visitor visa, you can't work. So we are currently surviving off of what savings we could get together before we fled the United States. And that's not terribly much. And in Canada, I think it's actually the cost of living crisis is worse here, especially when you are shut out of the healthcare system, when you can't access any of the resources that Canadians have access to. And that's understandable. You know, I'm not a citizen of the country, but it is making the financial situation.
Yep, turns out things suck just as bad in Canada. It's not the paradise. It's not Michael Moore's Canada, where everyone rides around on mooses and drinks syrup. Turns out Canada sucks too. Guys, in just a second, we are going to get an update from the House Republicans on what's happening during the Epstein, the Clinton deposition. Before we get to that, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com and use promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. So let's go to Chappaqua, where the House Republicans have just come out for a press conference about what's going on. Here's Anna Paulina Luna speaking.
Anna Paulina speaking right now with the House Republicans. Let's listen in.
All right, well, first...
Wait. Don't stand in front of the pool, please. Thank you.
Just first of all, a quick update. President Clinton is being very cooperative. I do want to point out, because I have seen some back and forth in regards to some of the Democrats trying to call in not credible witnesses, and I won't get into the nature of what I've asked the president specifically until after the deposition is over. But to be clear, we've had two individuals, one that accuses President Clinton of unfounded allegations of there being sex tapes, etc., by the name of Sarah Ransom. And there was an individual under the name of Katie Johnson that also had unfounded allegations of rape against our sitting president of the United States, both being claims that did not have evidence for grounds of that. And so just as we wouldn't call in an individual like Sarah Ransom, who we know made up claims, we're not going to do the same thing for President Trump. So I think to be able to bring that up and conflate the two with this investigation is wrong. And I want to be very clear on record. I don't believe that Sarah claims had valid claims against President Trump in regards to what she was, President Clinton has in regards to what she was alleging. Just as I don't believe that there are valid claims against President Trump by the individual of the name of Katie Johnson. What I will say is it has become very evident, even in the last 24 hours in lines of questioning, that Jeffrey Epstein was running an intelligence gathering operation. In my professional opinion, I do believe it was a honeypot operation. And I do believe that there's a list of individuals who did engage in trafficking, were given these plea deals, and I'm going to name those individuals right now. The first one would be Leslie Groff. The second one, Sarah Kellen. The third one, Nadia Markova. And the fourth one, Adriana Ross. All of these women engaged in the trafficking of minors as adults. They were working and complicit with Jeffrey Epstein's operation. And in my opinion, they are not to be given victim status because they did partake in harming young girls. I remember seeing in some of the files, some of these girls were, as young as 10, 11 years old and older. And so obviously we have a lot of work to do, but I did want to come and give an update and let you know that President Clinton, as of right now, is cooperative and answering all of our questions. And that justice. And so I will be calling on the Oversight Committee to bring in those 4 individuals that I just listed. We will continue to conduct the investigation and provide updates shortly for all of you.
What has the former president said to the committee about his interactions with Jeffrey Epstein outside of the state? Thank you.
I can't get into the specifics of the deposition because it's still currently going on. But again, he's being very cooperative, and I think that statement is pretty on point with what we're hearing.
Is former President Clinton saying he doesn't call anything about?
We will provide updates as soon as it's over. I don't want to violate the trust that we have right now in the depositions, but I do think that we are at least getting a little bit more of a clearer picture. And I will say I'm not in favor, and if there is a request to bring in an individual who's made false allegations against President Clinton, I will be voting that down in committee, just as I will be voting down any individuals that are brought forward that have made false claims against President Trump. I do think that there is a bit of partisan smear attempts in this whole investigation, but it's important to note that Jeffrey Epstein does have all of the telltale signs of an intelligence gathering operation. I think we all know that. I do believe that because of the people in power and influence, specifically presidents, et cetera, that he was targeting, that there is an aspect of, foreign governments trying to pit some of us against each other using this topic. And so we're more focused on that, as well as bringing justice to the victims. And there is no justice when traffickers are given plea deals. And so we'll be following up on that as well.
Congressman, I know you've been being cooperative. Do you believe his statement when he said, I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong?
I'm going to go back in, and what I will say is that I don't have any reason to believe right now that he's hiding the ball and everything. He's been pretty transparent.
And is it your belief and or the committee's belief that the former president was targeted by Jeffrey Epstein on behalf of a foreign nation?
It is, in my opinion, I don't think the opinion of the committee, but I do believe that Jeffrey Epstein was targeting many politicians, many influential people, especially in regards to economic policy, et cetera. And I do believe that it was possible that not just him, but likely Secretary Clinton, as well as a number of other people, were targeted due to an intelligence gathering operation. I think the American people will agree with me on that. But again, I don't want to get into too much of the specifics of the deposition, and I will be able to tell you at least once this is over, and we will be also trying to release those recordings from Secretary's deposition yesterday, as well as President Clinton's as soon as possible. Thank you, guys.
All right, Representative.
I'm excited to announce that we're having
Sorry about that. That was Anna Paulina Luna giving us an update on the depositions. We will keep it locked in if there's any more updates on what all is happening with that. What all is happening with that? Back to immigration, though. Back to the immigration front. Zohran Mamdani is touting some kind of a win. This is I got to tell you, this is actually a really funny story. It's funny for two reasons. One, it shows that when ICE makes a mistake, they correct it. But it's going to be pretty funny for an obvious reason in just a second. A Columbia University student was detained by ICE and released after Zohran Mamdani met with President Trump, the mayor says. A Columbia University student detained at her campus housing by ICE agents Thursday morning was released after Zohran Mamdani received assurances from President Trump as they met at the White House on Thursday. He said, "I just got off the phone with President Trump in an earlier meeting. I shared my concerns about the Columbia University student who was detained by ICE. He informed me that she will be released immediately." Hours later, Columbia released a statement saying that she had been released. The university is relieved and thrilled that our student has been released from detainment, and we will share additional details this morning. Apparently, this woman was detained incorrectly. DHS said that she was an illegal immigrant from Azerbaijan whose visa had been terminated by the Obama administration for failing to attend classes. The raid was launched at the Morningside Heights campus at 6 a.m. 5 agents, quote, without a warrant, well, I'm sure they didn't, I'm sure they had one, came in and picked the girl up. They made their way to her apartment with the same story, that they were reportedly captured on a security camera showing photos of an alleged missing child. The operation involved an unknown number of agents who reportedly told campus security officers they were investigating a missing persons case involving a 5-year-old girl. In a statement to the Post, DHS said the apartment building manager and a roommate let the officers into the apartment, and the agents were all wearing badges and identified themselves. Apparently, they picked up the wrong person. And I am very sorry that these sorts of things happen. And I'm sure this girl will get an unbelievably large lawsuit from both the city of New York, campus, Columbia University, and the federal government. Not to say that that's okay, not to say that it is right. But when we're picking up all of these people, every once in a while, one of them is going to be wrong. Of course, the entire internet is having a little bit of fun with this one because a photo of the girl was released, and it turns out when you look like this, you're probably not going to be deported. Even if they had the right person, she can stay. 9s and above aren't illegal. Everybody knows that. That's an Alex Stein quote. So, for all the idiots watching the show, relax. Relax. It's a joke. Sort of. Not really. But kind of. Look, none of these accidental arrests would be happening if the Biden administration didn't let 30 million illegal immigrants into the country in the first place. The internet decided to have a little bit of fun because this one happens to be, like, you know, aggressively hot. You know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? None of this would have, as I said, none of this, of course, would have had to have happened if Democrats didn't break the law in the first place. But, you know, that's what they do. That's what Democrats do. Moving on, because there's a wild story that got mentioned the other day on the Patrick Bet-David podcast by Kristi Noem. Apparently, Elon Musk helped find spyware that was on Kristi Noem's devices that were installed by some of her Democratic staffers. Anna Paulina Luna asked Kristi Noem if it also happened to members of Congress and their staff. This is an absolutely wild story, but when Elon Musk was part of the federal government, apparently they discovered spyware on the devices of some of the members of the Trump administration.
I can't believe what I found since I've been in this department. I just found the other day a whole room on this campus that was a secret SCIF, secure facility, that had files nobody knew existed. So we just happened to have an employee walk by a door and wonder what it was and started asking questions. We went in there. There was individuals working there that had secret files that nobody knew about on some of these most controversial topics like that. And now I've got that turned over to attorneys and we're getting to the bottom of what exactly happened there. You know, we have CBP, which is Customs and Border Protection. They know every traveler that comes into this country, every good that comes in. They're the ones who assess and collect all of the tariffs. But the information that they had on travelers that came in during COVID, what are national labs, which I also have national labs under my jurisdiction. They're scientists that participated with that Wuhan lab, how they were traveling back and forth between each other and working on those experiments. It's been eye-opening. And I'll tell you, Patrick, even from the time I came into this office, it was, Elon and his team were extremely helpful to me. They helped me identify that some of my own employees in my department had downloaded software on my phone and my laptop to spy on me.
Stop it.
To record our meetings.
Wow.
They had done that to several of the politicals.
Wow.
And so we ended up bringing in people and that was something that if you didn't have those technology experts here in the department looking at all of our laptops and our phones and recognizing that kind of software, it would still be happening today. So one of the things I need to do and continue to do is partner with technology companies and experts to bring them in and help us. Because many times in government, and especially in this department, which was extremely neglected, we were just behind and not up to the standard we should be at. I remember the first 4 months, I couldn't even send a PowerPoint over email from the Department of Homeland Security servers that was longer than 6 pages long. So the backwards thinking of protecting our country was extremely detrimental to keeping us safe. And many times the deep state, I think what I tell people most of the time is I always believed when people talked about the deep state before that it existed. I never would have dreamed that it was as bad as it is. It is, I'm still every day trying to dig out people who don't love America, that not just work at this department, but also work throughout the federal government.
And I've been saying that for quite some time. Many people are frustrated with all of the heads of these agencies. But what people have to understand is that the farm system where they get a lot of these people from are all the top-notch, high-level Ivy League schools. They're all liberals, and they all hate Republicans. As you can see there, they found spyware on Kristi Noem's laptop, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, just to see what she was up to. Someone put that on there. Someone in DHS did that. And I've long said that when it comes to the idea of a deep state, whatever it is however it is you want to describe the deep state, the bigger problem are the 15, 20, 25, 30-year bureaucrats who are pissed off that things are changing. People that work in government don't ever want to change. They like the way things are. And they hate the people that are in charge of these institutions now, whether it's Pam Bondi, who I think has done a terrible job, or Kash Patel, who hasn't totally lived up to snub, or Kristi Noem, who I think is doing a fairly good job. It's the people working under them that stop them from getting the mission done. Not that we should cut them slack, not that we should expect less. But that these are the sorts of things that are happening at these agencies. And I think people really need to understand that. If you haven't worked in government, you probably don't really understand how deep this sort of stuff runs. But it's deep, and it's bad. Very, very bad. We do have some good news on the home front, though. Very good stuff. As the American economy continues to battle back after 4 years of Democrats, the world stage is starting to notice that America is getting better and better and better. This comes as mortgage rates continue to fall over and over and over again. Before we get to that, guys, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Just copy that URL and paste it into all your other social medias. Help this network grow. Also, guys, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That's your home. That's your home plate, your mothership, your batter's box, your landing pad. For all things LFA-TV related, check out the LFA-TV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming a monthly donor over at LFA-TV so that we can keep the lights on over here. Giddy up. Let's go. So let's dive right on in to the good economic news coming out. The market is, it was good yesterday, and now it's less good. Now it's certainly less good, with the Dow Jones being down with the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq both being down a point today. The S&P 500 right now down 0.5 percentage point. That's not great, but it's been going up, it's been going down, it's been battling, it's been going back and forth. But one big thing that people are noticing is that mortgage rates have fallen below 6% for the first time since 2022. Mortgage rates fell below 6% this week for the first time in nearly 3.5 years, according to mortgage buyers Freddie Mac on Thursday. Freddie Mac's latest primary mortgage market survey released on Thursday shows the average rate on the benchmark 30-year fixed-rate mortgage fell to 5.98%. The average on a 30-year fixed-rate loan was 6.76% a year ago. It was most recently under 6% in September of 2022. The rate combined with improving ability of home sales, improving availability, of home sales is meaningful and will drive more potential buyers into the market for the spring buying session, said the chief economist over at Freddie Mac. The average rate for a 15-year fixed-rate mortgage increased a little bit from 5 to 5.44% last week. But let's be honest, not many people. If you're getting a mortgage, not many people are getting a 15-year mortgage. Most people are going for the 30 and then just paying it off faster. Mortgage rates are affected by several factors, including the Federal Reserve and geopolitics. Though mortgage rates are not directly affected by the federal interest rate decisions, they closely track the 10-year Treasury bond. The 10-year was hovering at around 4% as of Thursday afternoon. Economist for Realtor.com said the dip in rates comes in the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling against the Trump administration's emergency tariffs. The legal tug of war has been triggering flight to safety among investors, pushing bond prices higher and yields lower, helping mortgage rates settle at around 6%. However, as the week's decline stems from market volatility rather than fundamental economic data, more supportive economic data is needed to establish a trend. But the International Monetary Fund is starting to tout the fact that the American economy not only boomed over this year, but they're looking to exceed projections as we move into next year.
Well, let me start by saying that the performance of the U.S. economy in 2025 was very strong, and in 26 we expect it to get even stronger. Growth last year in the U.S. 2.2%. This is 0.5 percentage point higher than the rest of advanced economies. And you're right to point to productivity, because what is phenomenal about the United States is that strong growth is anchored in productivity growth.
It shouldn't come as a shock to anybody that the head of the International Monetary Fund sounds like a Bond villain. That's pretty terrifying. That's pretty terrifying, just in its total context. But, if the International Monetary Fund is feeling strong about the American economy, particularly when we're being told by the radical left that we're the laughing stock on the world stage, I'll take that as a win. Another win I'll take is that the DOJ has charged more than 30 people for the St. Paul Christian Church storming. That's the one, of course, that kept Don Lemon in the news, despite the fact that he's back doing man-on-the-street interviews like a college freshman. The Department of Justice has charged more than 30 people in connection with the storming of the St. Paul Christian Church in Minnesota. The case has been the flashpoint after the Trump administration surged ICE personnel to the area earlier this year. In a statement from the Department of Justice, today the Justice Department unsealed an indictment charging more than 30 people who took part in the actions on the city's church in Minnesota. At my direction, federal agents have already arrested 25 of them, with more to come throughout the day. You cannot attack a house of worship, says Pam Bondi. Now, look, this is a perfect example of this, okay? Of the slow and dragging process of government. We have these people on video, Don Lemon filmed the damn thing, committing this crime, and still it took 2 months to get these people arrested. It is not a function of the administration, it is a function of government in and of itself that it just moves incredibly slowly. I wish it moved faster, but it just doesn't. Dozens who allegedly stormed the church in St. Paul earlier this year have been hit with the FACE Act violations, a law commonly used by the Biden administration to go after those who protested at abortion clinics. Dozens of left-wing agitators entered the church, we know that. The group is organized by left-wing groups, which included the Racial Justice Network, and was led by leftist civil rights attorney Nikema Levy Armstrong. Former CNN host Don Lemon has also been charged, which is just funny. I just enjoy it. And look, do I want to see more high-profile arrests? I absolutely do. But you know what? Just knowing that Don Lemon's going to have to be in federal court is it's just funny. It's just funny because he's a genuinely bad person, and I hope we get more of it. Guys, it is 4 p.m. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. I want to thank everybody for tuning in all week. I want to thank my guest from yesterday, Chris Ripa. Make sure you guys go and follow Chris Ripa everywhere. He's putting out amazing content left and right. Guys, Hannah Faulkner is coming up next right here on LFA TV. Before we check out, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on. I will see you guys next week. Have a good weekend, everybody. Until then, everybody, stay loud.